Hey, my name's Jonathan Silva. This is the Dad Complex podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm excited to have my friend Grant Willingham from Ink Giant on today. Ink Giant is a design firm that Grant runs with his wife, Ericka. They have two daughters and a son. I mean, we're about the same age, so we've kind of gone through the similar experiences. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and get to know them better. Thanks for tuning in. We're here. But anyways, so the name of the podcast is called the Dad Complex, and I want to talk about like the complexities of like being a father and growing your career. And obviously, you have done that. You've had an interesting career path. So thank you for being here. I'm excited to talk to you and get to know you more. We've kind of known each other. I guess we've been acquaintances and frequent target runner inners over the years. But we've really only hung out like once or twice.
Yeah, that's what's funny. We run into each other all the time.
Yeah, so you are owner, founder, whatever you want to call it, designer at Ink Giant, a design firm. Do you do anything else? It's design, print?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of development as well. So we'll do website development, but anything to do with your brand, anything that encapsulates design is typically what we do. So,
Perfect. And Ink Giant, you also run it with your wife, Ericka, and then do you have employees?
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because it's a conversation that's ongoing about growth and how we want to grow. We have a guy named Sterling on for Thursdays and Fridays. And then my sister works from home in Dallas. And then I have about 3 or 4 other contractors that I work with frequently. So it's really flexible. And yeah, so it's a situation that we really enjoy the flexibility of it.
Yeah.
And just the freedom of not having full-time in, situation every single day.
Right. Okay, so you have 2 girls, a boy, and then you've been married to Ericka you guys are young.
10 years, yeah. So we got married when we were both like 22. No, she was 23, I was 22.
Oh, that's funny. So Kate and I are also about the same separation.
Nice.
And I was 21 when we got married.
Yeah,
22.
Yeah, and then we had kids pretty soon after that. We're young parents for sure.
Same. And so that's one of the reasons I was really excited to talk to you about is just being a young parent and doing all that. But as we get into that, so what has your career path looked like throughout those years?
Yeah, so well, I came here to Lubbock to design school, and Tech has an amazing design program, just so good. And that's where I met Ericka. We met here, and then we started a family here as well. And I kind of back then knew I wanted to start my own business. I wasn't sure why, but I knew freelance sounded exciting. And I didn't really know why, but then I jumped into a few different positions here. So first I was working at a commercial clip company, like a Christmas company.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I was like, I was doing photos. I was kind of MacGyvering and figuring out my situation, like how to do video, how to do product photography, how to build a website. I was very much like the entire department. And so they were just like, here you go, do packaging design, do your thing. But that quickly, I got tired of working for Christmas.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I tell people this all the time, especially like whenever we talk to tech students, is that like my experiences or my resume, I can only accredit that to being in West Texas and like working for small businesses where you have to like, for example, my past job in-house, it's like, okay, you're the guy and here's your budget. And so you don't want to hire, or like you don't have the flexibility to hire who you want to. So you start figuring it out. And that's how I figured out website design.
Yeah.
And like having to just dive into a bunch of different shit that you don't really
Yep.
realize or intended to.
Yeah, and I've done a talk recently at Tech, and I walked them through all my careers because it was really helpful to show them like, I could show them Ink Giant and all the projects and all the, everything's just like so awesome for me now, and I really enjoy it. But getting to that's Z, right? And so I showed them. I was like, "Here's the Christmas clip company," and I showed them my designs, and I was like, like. And then the next one I showed, and it wasn't that exciting. And the next one, and I was like, "You gotta go do it, figure it all out, and then go somewhere else."
Right. Yeah.
If you have that privilege, I understand that not everyone has that opportunity or whatever. Everyone's different, but I kind of got bored because I learned everything and I got tired of working for Christmas. And I was like, okay, what's the next thing I want to learn? So I went and worked for Slate Group, the print company here in town.
Yeah. Yeah. Love Slate.
Yeah, they're great. And did a ton of projects. And that's where I really learned how to be fast because they were like, yeah, you're really slow, like creativity. And I was like, but it takes time, right? And so I had to really be quick there. And that's when I learned a lot of lessons from different positions. Then I jumped to the next career.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn lessons along the way. You learn how to deal with different kinds of people. And I know a lot of people, if they just sit in that same company, they don't realize the potential out there. And anyway.
So while you're on that, something that like I've frequently have talked to designers about, like past job had a designer who worked in house and had the flexibility to like of time, right? And it's like that's not the real world. Like that's not realistic in most situations for designers or creatives in general. Like sometimes you have to find those compromises or just figure out how to be really good really fast.
Yeah, and absolutely that feeds into today because I actually took my son. It's his birthday today. He turned 6.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, and so
That's
I
awesome.
took him to school. They had a pastries with the parents thing, so I took him there and did that. Then I also did lunch with him, and I also like exercise and all this. So the flexibility of you when you're on. You work really fast, really efficiently, so that you can just be like, I'm gonna go to my kid's school and go hang out with them, and I'm gonna say yes to all those things because I've learned to be really efficient and work really hard and that.
Yeah. What if this is an interesting topic for me while we're on it, and I still want to learn more about your career path, but like, what has it been like for you dishing out timelines? Because that's a really hard, like turnaround times I feel like can be pretty stressful.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is something I've grown in a lot just recently this year because I tend to be a people pleaser, but I also tend to be a momentum person.
Mm-hmm.
The best time to get going on a project is when you're talking to the client and dreaming and going. Like,
Yes.
when we work together, it's like you get the idea, you go, you deliver it. All that momentum is there. And as creatives, if you lose that inspiration and lose that momentum and start it a month later, you might not catch that and keep that going. So, but the detriment of that is that I burn out. So, and Ericka, my wife, she really challenged me on this. She's like, set healthy deadlines. Tell them, like, if you think it's going to be a week, tell them 2. If you think it's going to be a month, tell them 2 months, And that's helped me a lot with balance. And so, yeah.
I'm the same way, and I'm lucky to have like my wife Kate and Drew to kind of like bring me back down. Because I'm also like I'm the person that if someone emails me, like I internally have this clock of like, okay, your time's running out, you've got to respond.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about deadlines. It's like, well, we're pretty set on our pricing, so we don't we try not to, or we don't back down off of our pricing.
Yeah.
But what I do is like, okay, but we can do this faster, and like not only can we do it better, but we can turn it around better. And sometimes that's just isn't necessarily fair to everybody, but we're a lot better about it now. But I know that's something I struggled with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's a constant struggle. Like it will always be, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think so too. It really goes down to the people pleasing thing. And I think as we have something that hurt me probably was being in house and not having to work with a team, because I could set my own, like I didn't have to count on anybody. And
Yep.
now we're counting on people, and it's like, okay, what's fair to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Absolutely. Yep.
So what is, so, okay, sorry, Slate Group,
Yep.
which
Yeah. So it's the
love Slate
Christmas
Group.
company, Slate Group, and then I kind of caught. So I was always doing freelance on the side, like kind of a little bit, not really seriously. But then I started freelancing with a nonprofit, the Preemptive Love Coalition. I think you're. I'm not sure how you're familiar with them, but yeah,
Well, we
Preemptive
met,
Love
you were still
Coalition.
working there.
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
that's
Or
crazy.
you were working there.
Yeah. So and there was like 7 people working there. There was like 7 of us or something. And the first meeting we had, it was like they were like saying like, we have enough money till next year, but we might not exist next year. Just, telling all, totally being honest. Like,
Wow.
it's a little rocky, So let's see if, and then 3.5 years later, we have like 55, 60 people.
That's
Like
insane.
for a nonprofit, that kind of growth was insane, and yeah, it was crazy. So I kind of went from being like the designer to being kind of the creative director with two. I actually had 2 full-time designers and a part-time designer under me, and that was quite an adjustment in like 3.5 years. And we were doing
Yeah.
illustration, we were building the website, we were doing all the components, we were running a store with successful merchandise line is what we launched, and it was crazy. And it was like the dream job. Like I was all about it, like
Yeah.
obsessed.
Like super cool mission. I remember you
Yes.
telling me about it and being like, I want to work with this person or like just be friends with this person because they're passionate about what they do, like in the same way that I feel about stuff.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I still have a lot of the passions that I got there, but Preemptive Love Coalition. I have a hard time saying. I haven't said it a lot recently. But yeah, they were a peacemaking organization with beautiful ideology, and they were in the Middle East during ISIS, during all the conflicts going on, and they were helping with job creation. They were also on the front lines distributing aid. Um, it would get really intense. Like your work messages would be like, I have a staff member who's recently like was being shot at by ISIS, and you're just like, wow, that's crazy. And my brother was actually on the front line. He got shot at by ISIS distributing aid, and it was just like
Wow.
the intensity of the emotions and all that going on made this so real, so intense. I was so passionate about it, and actually probably going back to the topic of being a father made it difficult to be present with my family. I'd say I'm like way more present now with my family than that because it was so all encompassing. I had like mental health issues coming from seeing the things I saw, like,
Yeah.
and it was insane. Yeah, and then exited that and started my own. Well, I started doing freelance like Grant Willingham design. I was like,
Yeah.
this is lame, and so I made a moniker or whatever in Ink Giant, and I was like, this fits more. I can invite others into this potentially, and just have fun with it.
So to dive in a little bit deeper into like fatherhood and marriage,
Yeah.
like how has your career path, like what's that look like? And I probably should have asked you this as we were going, but
Yeah.
what were those parallels or what was going on at home and how were y'all adjusting?
Yeah. So probably so the first job, which was like my very entry salary intro, like Christmas company, having my first child, and my daughters, they're 13 months apart, so they're really close.
Whoa.
And then so it's kind of a blur as far as like Christmas company and Slate Group were like my daughters. And then during Preemptive Love, I had my son, and we're also developing our marriage and our communication and our conflict and all these things
Yes.
throughout those time periods. So it's been 10 years. It's a 10-year span of all these things happening, but exponential growth and realizations and traumatic events and all sorts of things with work. And it's been wild. So balancing it. What was your original question? Like, how is it being a father during
Yeah,
these
like how have
events?
you balanced it, or how is that?
Yeah, balance. I'd say I wasn't very good at it. So I was good at it early on. The preemptive love stuff was really difficult because of the mental struggles of what you're experiencing and the passion and the ups and downs. And there was a lot that we went through mentally with that organization that ultimately we learned a lot through, and we learned our boundaries and our values and all those things. But um, I'd say in general, like Eric and I have always been very passionate about spending time with our kids, being there with them, connecting with them, and not just like just hanging out with them, like connecting. Like
Yeah,
we're gonna like lay on the ground and play Legos, or we're gonna do this, or we're gonna play this game, try this. Recently, been doing Dungeons and Dragons with them, and they're so hilarious, and it's amazing.
really.
And finding those ways to connect with them, asking them intentional questions about what do you think. These are things that Eric and I sat down. We're like intentionally, we're gonna connect with them, and when we're with them, we're with them. But like anyone, like there's some days you're, checked out and fried on your phone, and some days you're really connecting. And
Yeah.
so it's, I don't know, it's ups and downs daily.
So was Erica working throughout the time? And I know like having two kids,
Yeah.
and then like daycare's mega expensive, and then eventually having three. Like, so did she have that up? Like,
Yeah, early on she was doing. She was a hairstylist. She's really good at it, and she had her own salon early on with like the first child, and then she just kind of realized it wasn't for her, and she's been stay-at-home mom since then, and it's been a mission of ours to figure out what it is that she wants to do.
hmm,
And so recently we've started foster care. That's something she's been super passionate about. So we had foster placements and got into all that. And
what?
yeah, we're like, we have all this space now. We have our own company, we have extra space and just a lot of privilege. Like, let's add this, is what
Yeah,
we decided. So she's been stay at home mom, but she's been very involved. Like, a lot of times the designs that look good are because of Erica. Like she'll, I'll say like, I don't know what to do with this. And she'll just be like, yeah, it's really bad because of this. Or it's real, like this is working. And she's very blunt and honest. And she's like that. She's brilliant with knowing how things will be received or connect. And so yeah, she's very involved with the art direction. With early on, she was less connected, less involved, but then she got really passionate about preemptive love as well when we
hmm,
were at preemptive love, and that was really big. And now, yeah, we kind of run the thing together,
right.
and yeah,
What's it like taking critiques from Erica?
it was hard at first. I'm not great at taking criticism, or I wasn't, especially at first. I've learned how to direct criticism, like direct the conversation and like put my emotions to the side.
Hmm.
Um, but it was hard at first, but the more like a muscle, the more you work it out and the more you communicate and grow in your marriage, the more you can realize that she's right.
Yeah,
No, but but seriously, like realize that her, like the perspectives that people have are valuable beyond your own, and you need to be seeking those out actively. As a designer, I'm always listening. I'm always doing this, and then sometimes now I'll say like I kind of disagree, and this is why, and we'll kind of go back and forth, and it always ends up in making the design better.
yeah. So let's be
Always.
honest though.
Yeah.
Taking a critique from Erica, probably like, is it harder than taking it from someone else?
No, not anymore. It used to be, but it's like we've worked really hard on communication. I know, like honestly, like it's now I go and I ask for it. Like
Yeah.
okay, like be serious with me. Like how do I make this good? Because you're
Oh
going
man.
to. She's just very insightful, very wise, and so that's a huge asset that I have in
Good
my
on you. I'm
relationship.
envious. I'm a jackass, and Kate and everyone around me is super talented at what they do, and I hate being bad at stuff. So there's
uh,
certain things that I'm just bad at. Like I'm not a natural photographer. Literally everyone around me is just an incredible photographer. Um, design. Kate's a great designer. She would
Yeah.
never say that herself, but she's a great designer.
Yeah.
So I'll design some stuff. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And she's super blunt. She's honest. She's always right. But oh my gosh, it's like I take it too personal. I'm just not there yet. I don't do it enough.
Yeah, I mean, fresh out of design school, most designers, this is what I look for when I contract designers and stuff. But straight out of design school, designers tend to be really bad at taking feedback and criticism. And if you're going to last, you're going to have to realize that that is the most important thing, like, is listening to what other people think. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but listen to that, find the value, find the reasoning, and like invite that in to making the product better or the design better. So
Right.
I really value criticism and feedback. If I send it to a friend and they're like, this looks good, I'm like, that's not like, tell me like why it's good, what's working or what's not working.
Mhm.
And like that helps the critical mind really grow. And
What are y'all like on criticism? What are y'all like criticizing each other's like parenting styles or like parenting moments?
yeah, this is where most conflict comes out of, right? Like where you're like,
Yeah.
you're like, we will call each other out and be like, yeah, Ericka will call me out and be like, hey, you know, we talked about doing this differently and you're still doing that. Like, hey, like what's going on? Like, let's work on this. Right.
Mhm.
And so she's the one that typically is insightful into seeing like, hey, this is how, we set out to do things differently as parenting, and like you're you know what's going on here, and she'll confront it. And a lot of times I'll get real sensitive and get frustrated and be like defensive and be like, no,
Yeah.
like that's not what I meant or whatever. And so but that is what makes you a better parent, is those moments, not like getting it right. It's like getting it wrong,
Yeah.
coming together as parents and being like, get your shit together. Like, let's do this differently and let's see if we have different results. And that's like, I really value that. So like communication, like it's so massively important. And we have that dynamic with our relationship, and we set out with our marriage to be like, we're going to like, be equals, like push and pull. Like we don't really have any sort of like traditional structure with our relationship. We don't really value that personally. It works for others and stuff, but we really just like work through it together.
Yeah.
So,
How different are y'all from your parents?
whoa, gosh, what do you mean, like in personality or how we
Parenting.
function? Oh, quite a bit different, I'd say.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, like, but like to be honest, things have evolved and changed. Like, I mean, even talk about nutrition. Like, you can't hold your parents accountable for how we ate necessarily when they didn't have the same information we have now, right? And so I'm not trying to.
No, you're right.
But you
You're
know what I
right.
mean,
Yeah,
is like
absolutely.
the internet and the age of information evolves all this stuff, and parenting and being able to find a Facebook group about foster care and like be like, hey, they have this idea, we should try it, and it works. Like they didn't have that privilege. So I take that into account as well.
Kate and I talk about that all the time in the sense like imagine like we'll see someone post something that we don't necessarily agree with. And it's not that we're judging people, but some people just post way too much about their life. Or like, my kid did this and blah 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 and they're in trouble. I'm like, dang dude, like it's like 30 minutes of this kid's life and you're really gonna
Yeah,
shame
and
this
you're like, do
person
you
on
realize
Facebook
you're
or like
you're communicating this publicly where they can go find it?
yes.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
like
crazy.
imagine if our parents had that and could see other parents being shitty.
Yeah.
You know, like I think you realize those things. You're like, oh, I don't want to be that person, or I can't be that person. And we have this way of like being able to reflect on ourselves, or like even seeing past styles. Like I see what I look like in high school. I'm like, oh man, I cannot believe I ever wore that, or like, like I can't believe I said that. I hate Facebook memories.
Yeah.
Like anything from honestly 5 years ago, even I'm like, oh, why did I say that? What was I thinking? And our parents didn't have that.
Yeah. So, I mean, my parents were like, way more traditional. It's like the father does this, and you go out and mow and fix things. And they came from ranchers, and it's like we go out and work and do this, and then we
Yeah.
come in and the mother cooks and this and that, and like they had all these traditional values, and that like none of that ever worked at all for us or was interesting to us at all. We were just like, let's work through this together and play off of each other's strengths and let this thing be fluid.
Yeah.
And so that's the main difference between how our parents did it and we do it, I think.
Well, and I think on the other token of this, like, and especially for me, if you don't feel this way, I totally understand, but I don't get that vibe from you. But like, I'm super fortunate and thankful for my parents. Like, I'm not like they weren't the worst. Could they have done a lot of things differently? I'm sure they would agree.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, their parents and my parents, like everyone's goal and my goal for my kids is to make them better than I was, right? And
Yeah.
I think that like, and I talked to my dad about this the other day, but like Tadpole, we're doing this, and I just said thank you, and he's like, well, that's what we wanted. We wanted to give you the opportunity that we didn't have
Yeah.
to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think most parents would say the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, my dad was like, I never expected you to be the one to like I never expected you to have your own business, start the like he's like, I'm really proud of you for this. Like,
It's like, not you.
yeah, I had to process that because I was like, I hope that I am able to like cultivate that and see that, but in my kids, but like my kids now have seen and are actively seeing that like you can just make your own business. You can
Yeah.
work through this. You can figure this out, and there's a lot of privilege involved in that as well. Like there's a lot of like your parents putting you through college or whatever. Like there's layers of that I don't take for granted, but our kids like will go to art shows and we'll sell art prints and they'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna do this when I'm older. And I'm like, that's so cool that you get to see
Yeah.
that, and you could just be like, yeah, I can make this happen.
Yes.
And I did not even think in those terms as a kid.
No, dude, it's crazy. So like we took our first vacation, like actual vacation, not to see family, not to see whatever. We went to Cancun this past summer. I've never been there.
Oh, we went this year too.
Dude, it's like I've never been on a vacation like that. And so like getting to take our kids and seeing them like like just kind of adventure and understand what a airport is, and that like airports aren't the same
Yeah.
in Mexico as they are here, and like just a different.
My daughter threw up in the airport in Mexico, and we were like, it was like the middle of the night. It was like panic mode in Cancun. So anyway, but
No, that
yeah, keep
sucks.
going. Sorry.
No, I mean that's basically it. On the same note, on our flight back, a bunch of stuff happened. One of the like someone that was on the plane, a passenger, they like had a diabetic shock or something as we were like halfway
Oh gosh.
back, and they fell going to the restroom, and so they turned the plane back around. We landed in Cancun and ended up sitting in the plane for like 4 or 5 hours.
Oh man, and your kids were probably not happy.
Oh,
with
they
it.
were pissed. There was no food. Eventually, the AC like turned off because they had to turn off the
Oh,
airplane,
yeah.
and so it was a horrible experience. And then we took them on another plane a couple months later, and they were like just so bummed the whole time. Like, oh, do we really have to do this again? I hope this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's, you see the world evolving, like, more, it's easier to go places, it's easier to do more and see all these things. And we're definitely experiencing this with our kids where we're like, man, you did not have the chance to do this, or we didn't have the chance to do what you're doing now. And that's helpful. Like, we communicate that to our kids in a non-shaming way. Like, we don't hold it over them or anything, but we're like, hey, like, recognize, be mindful that you have this opportunity. Like,
Mhm.
not everyone has that opportunity, and like, like, let's be grateful. Let's recognize this opportunity, and we try to speak those things to them, and like put words to those experiences so that they can not take it for granted,
Yeah,
but
well,
not in a shameful way. Because if you're like, man, I never did this, you should just be grateful. Like, they're just gonna be resentful of you and be like, whatever.
oh,
So-
absolutely. And it's a struggle, right? Of like having to figure out like how to take advantage of technology. You know, like our kids bring, especially Penny, my oldest. So like she'll come up and see like, oh, I just saw this. Like I know how to do this now because I just saw it on YouTube.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean you know how to do this? And then she'll go do it, and it's
Yeah.
awesome. She's really, it's phenomenal. But then also, how do you teach them like, okay, put the phone down, or
Yep.
like it's time to work. You got to clean your room. You got to do this. Which ultimately, it is the phone, right? Like, hey, well, you got to take your phone away. You're grounded. You got to go do this
Yep.
until you can't have it till then. But it is interesting, like finding that line of like,
Yep.
embracing today and still trying to, not enforce, but give them those same experiences of like what work ethic is and what
Yep.
it was like, what it's like without it, technology.
As millennials, like technology kind of like unlocked for us slowly through like high school and college, and our kids are just jumped into it. So for us, our strategy is slowly introduce them. Like they have a phone watch where they like can call just limited people.
Yeah.
And we're like, you get to call your parents or your grandparents, and then maybe later we'll like introduce another thing. So we have like a slow track into teaching them how to engage with these things and slowly monitor, instead of like, you can't have any of this or you can just have unlimited access. We're like, let's slowly like guide them into this because they're gonna use it anyway. So that's our
Yeah.
strategy.
Well, and so we weren't really sure about the phone thing. And to me, it was like, we're not going to do it till 12 or 13. Our daughter's 8, our oldest. But then so I coached their soccer teams. And so we were at we took like a team outing to the Texas Tech soccer game, and all her friends had phones. And the parents were talking like, well, yeah, we do this. And so there was all these like positives for us that were like, oh, that sounds like really nice actually.
Yeah.
And so we got her a phone, and our intention was like, okay, she can take it to school with her. That way we have a tracker on her, know where she's at.
Yeah.
Not in a creepy way. We're hoverers, we're smotherers.
Yeah, security is huge.
Yeah. And then we expected her to like want to be on it all the time, and she's really, really good about putting it down.
Nice.
Which is kind of a shock.
Yeah.
Really proud of her. I don't know if our youngest will be the same way, but Penny specifically is pretty chill.
They're all pretty different, huh?
Yeah. So it's been really good for us in that sense. Although I know Drew, or my brother-in-law, and Allie probably get a little bit annoyed because I know that she calls them on Saturday mornings early.
Like, wake up.
Like, hey, how's it going? And,
Yeah.
but it's been really cool to see her interact with people. And she had her first, like, one of her school friends is moving, so she got her phone number, her mom's phone number. And so she was like, "Okay, can I call this person?" We're like, "Yeah, you can call them. Let's, we were driving home, so we just kind of expected like you can call her when we get home, or like not in this moment."
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as we said yeah, it's on speakerphone and it starts ringing. And I'm like, "Oh man, she's bold. Like she's just going for it." Like, okay. And then the mom answered and she froze up. She's like, and then hung up. It was really, really cute. And I was like, man, I remember being your age and like wanting to call people or something. Just being terrified of the wrong person answering, or like, and I still do this where I think through what I'm going to say so I don't sound like an idiot when someone answers,
Yeah. Yeah.
But, phone anxiety. Jeez. I also used to have anxiety about when texting just started coming out.
Yeah.
I had a friend who would text, and I was not allowed to text. And they text me. I remember calling me like, "Why are you texting me? Like that's
My parents are gonna be mad about the bill."
And he was like, "Dude, I'll give you 10 cents. Like it's fine." It's funny to think about that. We used to have to pay per text. But okay, so I did want to ask if you've ever created something that you wouldn't show your kids, not necessarily because it was bad, but maybe the context of the content. And I really I'm just interested in knowing if that's a thing for you.
Yeah, Eric and I are like, we're both pretty like non-filter people. Like we do not, I mean, to a certain extent, like you filter everything with your kids. I don't think you can help it, but we actively try to at least engage with anything like they want to talk about. Like we won't just throw them in the deep end and just go off the rails about something, but I'll show them anything and talk it through. And I wouldn't show things that I find they'd be bored about. So I guess there's plenty of work that they would be like, oh, that's just not interesting. But they're really active in wanting to see what I'm doing. I mean, the shirt I did for y'all, my second daughter wrote a story about a frog afterwards because she saw this art and she's like, this is so cool. I'm writing a story.
Dude, can you share it? Would you share it?
Well, I don't know if it's specifically about this art piece. And it was is a school prompt, and she's like, I don't know what to write about, so I'm writing about a frog that does probably something else. Like her mind goes wherever. Like she's incredibly creative, and so. But yeah, like she'll see artwork, they'll see artwork, and they'll engage with it. My youngest will come and critique it, and him and Sterling, the guy who works with me, Link will be like, hey, you need to move this over. And he's turning 6 today. He'll be like, yeah, move this and fix this. And he's like, I'm going to go tell you what I think you should do.
Is he spot on, or is it just,
no, I mean, sometimes he's really a playful, fun person. So he doesn't do it fully seriously. He's just wants to be involved. Yeah. He just wants to be involved, to have fun and engage with it. It's really cute how he does it. That. So yeah. They're very involved. They love the art shows when we are selling art prints. They love talking about work or asking how things work. Explain animation to them, whatever. Yeah. They're very, very involved and love it.
So what's it like being, having kids? Are they do you feel like they're advanced creatives because of it? Like, do they draw better than the kids their age, or are they still figuring that out?
I don't know. We don't see it as like in the way you see sports, right. Where it's oh, they're performing this way. How we do artwork is just we just encourage them, and we just try different things. We'll pull out a roll of paper, throw it on the table, throw different art supplies on. We'll all doodle. We'll go crazy. I'll put on a song, and I'll be like, let's see what we make from this song. It's just very free, and because a lot of things we realized people who are discouraged from art are typically because they think they're bad at it, or think they can't. They had a mentor or a parent that were like, that doesn't look right because it doesn't look like this thing, because they think very simplistically. Right. And our approach to creativity with our kids is just really explorative. And I don't tell them this is good because of this. Yeah. I don't teach them techniques. I might eventually if they're interested, but it's very free form, inspiration based. I'm just trying to inspire them to dance or sing or play piano or draw. We're trying to be generative in that. And so
we are very similar in that sense too, the way we're raising them. Although on the other hand, Penny wants to be an actor and a singer right now. Yeah. And is very passionate about it. And honestly, she probably really could do it. But she's a very confident and hard-headed person, just like her mom and dad. No surprise. Yeah. But she, will be like, well, you need to do it this. If you want to be good at, there's this line, right, of do you want to be, I don't know, it's I don't want you to embarrass yourself, you know?
Yeah. And, I mean, first, I think they have to just really enjoy it and enjoy doing it, a lot of it. And that's the first stage. And that's what we're really focused on is just encouraging them to do it a bunch, because that's afterwards you can start instilling technique, theory, all that. But for us right now, it's just getting them to do it and have fun doing it. With piano, it's more structured. We have someone coming and teaching them. Right. My second does School of Rock, so she does singing there. Nice. She loves it. And they have more structured versions of that. But with art, we're very careful about not pushing them with it or since we're so involved in it and career-wise, we want to be careful how we engage with our kids.
Yeah. So on that note, last question is, what, like, I struggle with winding down, or
Mm-hmm.
like constantly maybe still thinking about work, and not necessarily that I'm not involved in whatever's happening at that moment at
Yeah.
home with Kate and the girls, but um, I always go back to, like, so sometimes it's just hard for me to put something down. Do you have any, like, what's your advice, or like how do you do it? Because I know you currently, your office is built
Yeah, it's
in
in my
your home,
backyard.
right?
Yeah, it's in my backyard. Yeah, I converted a shed into an office.
That's so sick.
It's really fun. So with it, I think the key, the core thing for me is mindfulness. And this is not something I nail all the time, but being mindful of, like, okay, what are you, why do you keep going to Instagram? Why do you keep doing this? Like, what patterns? Being mindful of that and how it makes you feel. When you eat something, how does it make you feel? When you don't ever go on walks, like, this is what I'm telling myself. I'm having this internal dialogue. Um, Man, I haven't gone on a walk in a while. Man, I've been eating a lot of this, or drinking too much of this, or whatever. And starting to develop that internal dialogue and mindfulness of how things affect you, like a muscle. You have to work it out. And that's the main thing I focus on. And um, Eric and I invest heavily into our mental health. And that comes from, our issues with PLC and stuff and all that
Mm-hmm.
that we, briefly mentioned. And we realize, like, this is important. This is worth investing in. Like, we go to therapy, like, as a thing that's like, hey, we're doing foster care. Like, we need a therapist to,
Mm-hmm.
like, that we're going to, and we're going to invest in mental health. And so, for me, a daily exercise, eating well, like, all those things help me have the energy I need to, when I turn it off and I'm off of work, I'm putting the phone down, I'm playing a video game with the kids. We're playing Zelda right now, and I'm loving it.
That's
And
sick.
or we'll go to the park, or we'll do this or that. And like, when you're individually healthy and working on that and having that internal dialogue, you're more aware and conscious of, like, how does constantly checking Instagram make me feel? How does checking out or whatever? And sometimes you just check out. Like, there are days where you're like, I'm so wiped. Like, I have to communicate to my wife and kids, like, I'm so spent. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling this. Like, y'all will have to forgive me for this, but I'm, like, so fried that I have no capacity. So I'll
Yeah.
just tell them, like, yeah, today
Sorry.
I'm fried, and, like, I'm gonna try to get through this. Or, like, I'm gonna try to, but just want to communicate, like, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
So that's, like, the core of how I try to deal with it daily. And yeah.
No, it's really cool. I think there's a lot of, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Affirmation
Yeah.
in that, because I know we do the same thing, or something very similar, where it's like, yeah, today's just not my day. And usually, because Kate and I work together, and we work very closely together,
Yeah.
um, it's sometimes it's both of us at the same time.
Right.
And that
You
and
have that
I know you and
client, and
Erica
you're
probably
like,
go through
oh
that too.
gosh.
It's like, gosh, man.
Yeah, and Erica is something that she's learned to do, is be like, yeah, I can't handle hearing about work anymore today. Like, can we,
Mm-hmm.
can we shut that valve, or, like, can we turn that off for the day? Oh yeah, like, I'm just really, like, caught up on this. And sometimes you have to be like, I'm done. Or I'll do the same.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I cannot. Like, I'm maxed on talking about foster care. It's really heavy. It's really weighty. Like, can we pick it up tomorrow? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I struggle with that so much. I'm such a, like, I have to get through the point to get over
Yeah,
it, or
yeah.
it weighs on me the whole night.
And sometimes it's like
Um,
finding a peer that you can go vent to, and not just your spouse all the time. Where you're just like, hey, I'm gonna go talk with John for a bit about
Dude,
this, because I cannot.
yes, and that's my problem, man. More than anything, is that Kate has a really good is really good at shutting off,
Yeah,
and I'm very envious of her for it. I, but yeah, like, it's not fair to constantly be like, okay, I know you're shut off and you don't want to think
yeah,
about it anymore, but can you deal with my problems now?
yeah,
Like, that's something I think, going back to, like, communication and,
yeah,
like, learning, something that, as young adults, like, getting married at 21, having kids at 21, um, and, like, still learning, like, that's something I personally didn't figure out in that time. Like, I
yeah,
feel like most people figure that out around that time, but
yeah,
I was figuring out how to live with a woman, and how to, or not just a woman, just another person,
yeah.
how to live with
Absolutely.
someone else, and to, um, be a dad at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, boundaries are huge, and that's in the workplace as well. Like, with my spouse, we have to set boundaries with each other. We have to be healthy ourselves so we can communicate that. And with Sterling, the guy I work with, he as you know, if he sets a boundary, and I should respect that. And communication and empathy, understanding, and transparency, all those things are like how you're going to have a healthy, sustainable career as well. And it's going to be healthy and sustainable for your marriage and everything. And sometimes it's like finding someone you can vent to. So I'll have other business owners, and sometimes we'll call each other up and be like, hey, I have to vent about this client, or I'm going to bring this home. So anyway, that's how I do it.
Dude, well, that's really all. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks
today.
for having me.
You're awesome. And I hope that we can like hang out more and work more together.
Let's do it.
Quick little plug, like, so Ink Giant for any freelance web design, and then you also do events, so you sell prints and shirts and stuff at market.
My side gig. Yeah, so I have the design studio and design and illustration studio, but then I have my own prints where I have no one telling me what to do. It's just my creative outlet, which is really important as creatives to have that. And I'll sell our prints there and shirts and all that.
That's cool. And so how do we know, I guess outside of social's website, is there anything else that people should know about?
I'm most active on Instagram. I have a website that I'm still working on kind of like fleshing out. And then I'll do some like First Fridays and events, though. It's not looking like I'll probably do another one this year, just with too much going on. So but I'm trying to pick up that more often, and that's really fun for my family and I to do.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's what we're up to.
Cool, man. Thanks for coming to Tadpole and hanging out with me for a little bit.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for the design. We'll have some stuff. We'll put your links up everywhere, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.